Greetings and welcome back once again to Secret Histories. I'm your host, Brian Keene. If you're tuning in for the first time, what we do in this series, which is posted to Patreon and then weeks, sometimes months later, posted publicly on my YouTube page, is we sit down on the floor in my office and we go through each of my published works in the order they were published. I talk about their creation, their origin stories, their impact, if any, on horror itself, and how I feel about them. Currently, what we're doing is working through everything that was published in book form or chapbook form, novella form, short story collections, anything that was bound together in a book, we're doing. Eventually, when we are done with that, we will turn our attention to my comic books and graphic novels, and some other assorted things. Today, we're going to talk about Stone Tears. Now, ideally, our last video was Castaways. Our next video is going to be Urban Gothic. Those two books, while stylistically very different and with very different plots, fit together in my mind and always will. As we talked about in the Castaways video, that was me specifically and deliberately setting out to write like Richard Lehman, an ode to Richard Lehman. Urban Gothic is me specifically setting out to write like Edward Lee. Those two should go back to back in videos, but according to my journal, what I was working on in between those two books, or kind of simultaneously, was this book right here, a little chapbook called Stone Tears, published by Bloodletting Press. Many of you have probably never seen this. You may have read the short story. It has since been collected in the Best of Brian Keene series, or excuse me, not the Best of Brian Keene. The complete short fiction of Brian Keene series. The Best of Brian Keene is a book that has not yet been published, but will be published this November from Pandy Press, P-A-N-D-I Press. So maybe check that out too while you're at it. Anyway, Stone Tears is a story about Nelson LeHorn, the secondary protagonist from my novel Dark Hollow, aka The Rutting Season. I knew at this stage of my ever-developing mythos that Nelson LeHorn was going to be a huge, huge part of the Labyrinth series. My readers did not know that. They only got their first hint of that when A Gathering of Crows was published, and we'll get to that in due time. But LeHorn had only appeared in Dark Hollow. He'd been referenced in some other novels. He was referenced in Ghoul. He was referenced in a few short stories, but he had only actually... Oh, and I guess he was referenced in Ghost Walk as well, but he had only actually appeared in Dark Hollow. And I knew when I started writing the 7 series that if I didn't give him more of a role and more of a backstory, people, readers were rightfully going to think he'd been shoehorned in there, and he hadn't. Everybody was expecting Levi to be a member of the 7, and no, I have other plans for Levi. Nelson LeHorn was always going to be the magus of the group. So I did this short story to reveal some more of his backstory, make him even more of a tragic figure than he already was in Dark Hollow. It takes place right here in my backyard, literally, along the Susquehanna River. I'm actually gonna read to you from the afterword, from the postscript. The Susquehanna River petroglyphs are real, as are Walnut Island, Big Indian Rock, and Little Indian Rock. These are all places that are referenced in the story. I was unaware of them until several years ago when a local reader mentioned them in a post on my message board. Since then, I've become fascinated with them. Some replicas of the carvings are on display at the Indian Steps Museum, located in Airville, Pennsylvania. If you're ever in the area, the museum is worth visiting. And I do mean that. I think it'll probably have greater resonance if you live here in central Pennsylvania, but it's very worth checking out. Much like the characters in this book, I've undertaken a midnight journey to see the real remaining petroglyphs. They are quite simply awe-inspiring, even despite the ravages of time and the elements, nature, and human vandalism. If you're interested, there are two very good books examining the petroglyphs. The first one is Petroglyphs in the Susquehanna River near Safe Harbor, Pennsylvania. That is a sexy title, by Donald A. Cadzel. I like the book. As the title suggests, it is, a very dry academic read, especially for a novice, but the material it presents is fascinating. The second book is Indians in Pennsylvania by Paul A.W. Wallace. Both books were published by the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission and are, as of this writing, and actually still in print and available at various locations, including online. That was 2008 when I wrote that afterward. The chapbook was published in 2009. And yeah, I'm proud of this one. I think it's a good story. I think it's a very sad story. And I think it gives you greater insight into Nelson LeHorn. And yeah, in real life, those petroglyphs are fucking amazing. It's horrific that there were more of them here at one time. And when they built the Safe Harbor Dam, the Susquehanna River, this section of it really expanded. The waters rose up over not only farmland, but lots of wilderness land and land that still belonged to the indigenous people. And a lot more petroglyphs and such are now at the bottom of the river, inaccessible. But the ones that are still accessible, I mean, you have to take a boat to get to them, and you're really not supposed to be there, which is why I went at midnight. But very, very cool, very neat thing to see here in this region. So that is Stone Tears. Up next time, we get into urban Gothic, and as I teased you in the Castaways video, if you think you know the secret history of urban Gothic, you are wrong. It's probably going to be one of the most shocking videos we've done in this series, so I hope you'll tune in for it. Thank you, all of you on Patreon, for watching, and those of you watching on YouTube, thank you as well. If you are watching on YouTube and you'd like to see these earlier, when they are first recorded, head over to patreon.com/Brian Keene. $5 a month unlocks all of these and thousands of other things for you to read instantly. Short stories, full novels, articles, writing advice, all kinds of stuff. Definitely worth checking out if you're a fan. Regardless of how you're viewing this, know that I appreciate you. We'll see you next time.